Hello and welcome to the Bonus XP podcast. I'm your host, Luke Morgan, and I'm joined, as always, by the Master Chief himself, Conan.
Yes, that's me.
And the Elden Lord, Griner.
That's right, at least using my correct title this week. Thank you very much.
Yes, correctly titling you. If you're new to the show, what we do here is every fortnight, three friends gather around the internet campfire to discuss a fun gaming topic or news item. Before we get to that, however, we check in and see what we've been playing recently. So I'll start with you, Conan. Have you been playing anything this fortnight or not?
Here's the season of our Elden Ring. That's all there is to play. I don't have the time to burn through it. And that game's too big. There's a lot of content there. At least I'm going to assume 100 hours when you consider all the dying you will do. So that's really it. Yeah,
So you've been playing a fair bit of it. And how much do you reckon you've put into it now?
30, 40 hours, I think. It's all I've been playing. I try to do it generally at night. I try to play a couple of hours, or on the weekends. When I should be hanging out with my wife and daughter, I'm usually like, nah, this is a good 3 hour window for gaming.
It's the only time to put the time into games, unfortunately.
Basically, so
for those playing at home, where are you up to?
I have.
Luke doesn't care. He's never going to play it.
So I've killed Godric the Grafted.
How good is his second phase? How good is that moment?
It's when you hear that scream and it just goes on and on and on, and then he goes nuts. It's pretty great.
Can we spoil it, Luke? Do you mind?
Go for it.
You sure?
Yeah, go.
It's like the first big boss. It's the first big boss in the game.
Yeah.
He gets to phase 2. He cuts off his own arm. His whole thing is he's grafted, so he's like sticking other people's body parts on him. He cuts off his own arm, shoves it into a dragon's head, and then takes over the dragon's head and just starts breathing fire everywhere for the second phase.
It's pretty nuts. So he's got this giant dragon head for an arm.
It's gnarly. It's such a good moment.
It is very soulsy.
It's that classic Souls moment. Like, this is so stupid, but it works. It just works.
Yeah.
And then you're sprinting down towards him, and you're like, I've got to dodge the fire, and you get it's great fun. So I killed that. I went and cleared out the south area, and now I'm kind of sweeping through. I'm heading towards the academy, I think it is, in the swampy area.
Yep.
So I'm kind of just clearing around there. I found a dragon that I can't beat, and so I'm gonna come back to that. But just clearing it off. So I'm not going to go right yet to the red lands because I think they're a bit too over leveled for me.
Yeah, it sounds like you're going down a quest line that will take you there naturally anyway, with a certain wolf character. You gotta let me know when you get there because one of the characters from there might be on my list tonight. But anyway,
so
exciting.
Conan, you missed the last podcast, and I'm sure you watched it. But in case you haven't, just to catch you up, so Griner is the Elden Lord now because he's actually finished Elden Ring. Did you know this?
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, I did.
Do we have some round of applause?
Yes,
I
patted myself on the back a hell of a lot. Yeah, it's interesting looking at the Steam achievements, and it's like 25% of people have got through the second to last boss that everybody has to beat. So it's just probably higher than I expected.
That's a pretty actual high amount compared to how many people usually finish games these days.
I guess people are finishing this game. People are keen to see it the way through. How long was your game time?
It was about 100 hours, about 95 hours, I think. Somewhere up there, yeah. But I did almost there. I feel like I did 90% of what there is to see. I got all but a handful of achievements. Most of those relate to different endings or collecting every legendary item, which I think I missed a couple of. So
was there any quests that you failed or big ones you missed?
Plenty. Yeah.
So I assume you would know, but you can't do everything on one playthrough? Is it the kind of thing where one quest will fail another quest, or
there is a few cases of that. There's a few cases of making a choice, but I don't know. I never, unless I was like specifically wanting that item or whatever, I don't think I would ever care that much. There's definitely, and there's a bunch of choices at the end in terms of the ending. There's multiple endings. There are variations mostly, but yeah.
Growing up, are you still playing it?
I'm back in. I'm back in.
100
It's like a
hours.
virus. I started another character. I'm just up to Godric. About to kill him again. My brother-in-law upgraded his PC this week just to play this game, so I thought I'll start again. So we can co-op. We haven't co-oped a single time, but I've co-oped with lots of strangers, and that's been fun. So I didn't do much co-op on my first playthrough, and I kind of over-leveled, and once you over-level, you can't match up with people lower than you so much. So, yeah, I want to try and keep this character at the right level to do some co-op.
Conan,
Well done.
you need to co-op with me. Help me through. I'll actually play it if I have someone to
So if
travel the lands with.
when you get it, I will
I've
get
got it. Like I'm a couple hours in.
Wait, I thought you hadn't even started. I thought you were just
No,
replaying
yeah.
Horizon Forbidden West for some reason.
No. I've started. I've got the mount. That's basically
Okay,
it.
that's a big step forward.
Yeah.
I'll have to get PlayStation Plus then, like a chump.
Yes.
Look at this.
No.
How are you going to pay money?
No, so me and
Right.
Grana discussed PlayStation Plus last fortnight, and we completely agreed that it's the best service in gaming.
Wow, wow, Jim
Grana.
Grana,
It was a big statement.
Have you been playing anything else?
Played 2 other games. I started playing Guardians of the Galaxy. It's free on Game Pass. Thought, what better time?
Yep.
It's cool. I don't know. I haven't been back to it in about a week, and I don't know if I will or not. I enjoyed my time with it. The characters are really interesting, and I enjoy the banter between them. I don't really love playing it. It doesn't seem that exciting, the combat. It's kind of like a pseudo third-person shooter, and I tend to play shooters with a keyboard and mouse, but the way it's designed, it definitely wants you to play on a controller. So that's kind of irking me a bit. But yeah, a lot of people said this last year when they're talking about Game of the Year and about characters, but they really have cut out their own Guardians of the Galaxy. Like they're obviously drawn from the same source material, but they're very different to what we get in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which I think is quite a feat, really, to make characters that are interesting after Marvel has done what many would argue is a very good job. Yeah, they've done a really good job at making these characters unique and funny. Yeah, I appreciate what they've done. I don't know if I have the patience to go back to it. But
it's worth it to bump it on the lowest difficulty and just cruise through. Like the
that's
story
what I started
is really
doing.
good, and it hits on some good beats later on as well.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I'm interested to see if that girl's my daughter or not. I assume I'll actually find out. But anyway,
yes, worth playing.
Yeah, the other game I've been playing, which is definitely worth playing, it's a whole $3.50 on Steam. Everybody should buy this game. It's called Vampire Survivors. It's a roguelike. It's got graphics. They look like Atari. No, they're better than Atari, but maybe like a Sega Genesis. Like it's really very old school looking, but it's also a very low budget game. So I think they're just like making the most of what they can do. And it's a roguelike. And I guess one of the cool things that I love about roguelikes is like doing a run and getting a build and building this build that feels unstoppable. You know, you have a combination of all these attacks that clear the field really easily, or they give you health back. You develop these combos. It's a bit like playing Magic the Gathering, where you're building a deck in a draft and you want to build these combos so that you can defeat your opponent. And I feel like the best when roguelikes are at their best, that's what they're like, and that's all this game is. So you don't control. All you do is move the character. Shooting happens automatically, or attacking happens automatically, and all you're doing is picking up XP, picking up items, and developing this build and making a build that can get you through 30 minutes of these waves of enemies. It's a really cool little game for $3.50. It's very, very good. I really enjoyed playing it. I kind of finished it. I don't know. I probably will play some more of it because it's still in early access, so they're still releasing stuff for it. But it's awesome. It's a cool little game.
Yep. Also, Conan, have you looked into Tunic yet? Grana played that last fortnight. It's free on Game Pass as well, but you finished it, didn't you, Grana?
I got the bad ending.
Yeah.
It was very disappointing, actually, because the bad ending was super hard, and then only to find out it was like a really bad ending. And I'm like, oh, there's this puzzle that I didn't even notice till now that I have to go back through the world and figure out, and I don't know if I want to do that.
That's a shame. That's a shame.
Yeah. No, I've only got enough love in my heart for one open world game.
Elden Ring.
It's Elden Ring.
Well, what I've been playing this fortnight is Lego Star Wars. the Skywalker Saga. So this came out last week, obviously. This game spans all 9 movies of the Skywalker Saga.
Cool.
Each movie gets about an hour in the game. Like, you can choose any starting point. So when you start up, there's basically 9 things to choose from, and like the second and third of those each trilogy is locked until you play, A New Hope or Phantom Menace or Force Awakens or anything like that. And so you can start what trilogy you associate with, or you're more of a fan of and want to play that. It's really fun. Like, if you're a Star Wars fan, I highly recommend it. If you're a Lego fan and Star Wars fan, definitely recommend it. Um, I'm not really into the Lego games. My son is. That's why I got this game for him, because he's into Lego and Star Wars. But it's a lot of fun. Like, playing 2-player with him. We're flying around like I'm flying the Millennium Falcon, like he's flying like a TIE fighter, and shooting each other in space, landing on planets like that are cool planets from the movies, like especially like the prequels. Like there's the rainy planet where all the clones are. Be able to run on that and just
Camino.
Camino, run around the inside areas in there and just goof around. 300 or so characters you can choose to be. Like, you can beat the crap out of Jar Jar with lightsabers, or
Finally.
people have realized that the kids in the game they don't break apart, like you can't kill them, sort of thing. So people have realized, like, you can keep smacking like Kid Anakin and pull off 500 move combos and be levitated in the air and get across the map, just smacking him over and over again, and like traverse gaps, just smacking young Kid Anakin, which is quite fun. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it. Short game. All I want these days is a 10-hour experience. So
Yeah.
me and my son breezed through that. I played a bit more, and I forgot to tell this story last fortnight. I just wanted to bring up now, of WWE 2K22, and microtransactions. This game bit me in the ass with microtransactions, and quite frankly ruined my mood playing this game, and I don't think I've been back to it since. Basically, in the game, there's a roster of characters that are locked behind virtual currency that you can earn in the game by doing matches or the story mode or whatsoever. And you can unlock arenas, championship belts, and basically any legend in the game, like The Rock, Stone Cold, all these legends, all the cool people that you want to play as in these games, are locked behind this virtual currency. So I was like, you know what? I usually buy the collector's editions of these games every year, which gives me like a thing to unlock them all from the start. So straight away, every time I boot the game up, I go in there and I unlock everything straight from the get go. This one, I wasn't sure if it'd be bad, so I got just the standard edition. So I had to find a way to get these. Went on the PlayStation Store. I was like, you know what? My son's wanting to play this. He wants this character and this character. I was like, I'm just going to buy the virtual currency, unlock the characters. I was like, it's $15, whatever. I'll do it. I calculated how much I'd need. I was like, the $15 one will get me there. I was a bit confused why there's ones higher than $15. So I was like, doesn't make any sense, because $15 will get me all of the characters, So I don't know why someone would spend $150. I buy the virtual currency, which is called virtual currency.
Wow.
Or VC, they call it.
That's bad.
I go in the game. I go in to unlock the characters, but like my virtual currency hasn't gone up. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. Maybe it just is taking time to load from the store or whatever. So I go around, play a couple matches, go back, hasn't done yet. I'm like, okay, cool. Quit out of the game, go back in, boot it back up. Still not there. I'm like, this is weird. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I go into the PlayStation Store again to make sure I purchased it. I did. I'm reading the description, and this virtual currency is a different type of virtual currency. There's this whole other mode in the WWE game for like collecting cards of wrestlers.
Oh my gosh.
like FIFA packs, like card packs, WWE Supercard, which I'll never ever play that mode. And apparently, I bought $15 worth of that currency, which cannot translate to unlocking these characters
Like,
whatsoever.
It's like itchy and scratchy dollars.
Yeah,
We don't-
it was $15 to unlock digital cards in this wrestling
Oh.
game, and it's not even like it's a baseball game where it's got that kind of nostalgia. No one collected
Yeah.
wrestling cards or anything like that. I don't get the point of that mode at all.
No.
And then I find in the PlayStation Store there's another one that's like to unlock all the characters and arenas and stuff, $7.50, and I was like, oh, that's the one I need to buy. So then I bought that. So then I'm $21 deep. Finally unlocked everyone, but it ended up costing me $21 instead of $7.50. And for some reason, I just have a bunch of card points that I'll never ever spend and never get my money back. And I haven't played the game
You could
since.
probably try and get your money back. I wouldn't be surprised if they'd refund that.
PlayStation.
Sony's a pretty nice company, aren't they? They
As
have
good-
good consumer
they
policy,
should.
don't they?
I feel like you're baiting me into this. As good as PlayStation is, their refund policy is the absolute worst refund policy on the planet. I couldn't get a refund for No Man's Sky, which I bought for $100 an hour after release. So
Why is
Yeah.
that?
They just
Because
don't have
apparently
a refund policy.
I had downloaded it. So if it's downloaded or been played, you can't get a refund.
They don't do.
Unless like extreme circumstances like Cyberpunk, where they've removed it from the store and they know that it's got super issues. But yeah, they consider if you've downloaded it.
They can't. That's pretty
which-
rough.
I don't want to hate on PlayStation. Like it's
Admit
the
it, but
furthest
not
thing
tough, admit it,
from
though.
what I want to do. I'll just tell this one story. Years ago, my son went on my PlayStation. He's a gamer. Went on there. I've got two different profiles on my PlayStation. One for me, one for my wife. He went into her profile. And when you go onto someone else's profile on your same PlayStation, all the games still appear like on the main menu sort of thing. They'll have like a padlock on them low. Like, you don't, at least like my wife doesn't own this game, but I do in my profile. Unless you do something in the settings to be like it's playable across all profiles on the system. And so for a game that I had bought already that was on my main menu, my son was able to click the button a bunch of times on my wife's profile, repurchase the game. It didn't have to download, obviously, because it was already installed on the hard drive. He just unlocked to be able to play it on my wife's profile. I contacted PlayStation and couldn't get a refund because they were like, "You've played it." And I was like, "Yes." I was like, "But I played it a year ago when it came out." I was like, "I've owned this game for a year on this console." I was like, "You'll be able to see that." And yeah, didn't happen. So
Very weird that they don't have any sort. There's no safeguard towards that. It lets you buy the game numerous times. even-
they have like two-step verification,
Hmm.
but I have that, and it basically only works the first time you want to buy something.
Because you can do parental controls though, surely.
Now there is, like 2 or 3 years ago, there wasn't what there is now. But I just removed all my payment things off there anyway. I'm just like, no,
Yeah.
I don't trust him. He'll figure it out. My son, he knows how to buy it anyway.
He'll find your wallet and take your credit.
Exactly. Starts writing out the card info.
Yeah.
So we'll get into the topic of the week. Now, this week we're just going to do one big topic because I feel like it's going to take up a bit of time and it's something I'm eager to hear everyone's take on. So the topic of this week is the top 5 video game characters of all time. Now, this is probably going to be favorites. We're not going to go into scientific explanations for why this character is the best. But our personal top 5 favorites. Game, and it doesn't have to be playable characters. It can be any video game character at all. We'll start with... What were you going to say?
There's just there's got to be a weird list. There's a lot there you can do.
There's a lot to sort through with this list, but
so just take it with a grain of salt.
We're gonna rank them all at the end, aren't we?
at the end we're going to come up with our definitive top 5.
Gross.
Cross-referencing all 3 of our lists
Yeah.
to see who gets on there. Griner. Now, you were the person who said who had difficulty filling up a list of 5 characters. So I'm
Crazy.
interested to start with you. We'll get to honorable mentions after our top 5, which Griner probably doesn't. But Griner, what is your number 5?
I might. Mine are not ranked. Mine are in no particular order. I'm sorry. I think I'm a bit of a different gamer to you guys. I'm much more there for the gameplay and a lot less for the story. I mean, I play a lot of multiplayer games. You guys are not that into them, you know. I think that reflects that. So, but I mean, that doesn't reflect my choices here. These are characters that I like. Anyway, I'll start with HK47 from Knights of the Old Republic. I've talked about my love of Knights of the Republic a lot. First RPG I ever played. One of the first RPGs that I know of that was like fully voice acted, and you come across this assassin droid, and you power him up, and he refers to you as a meatbag the whole time. He's like the anti-moral compass. Every time you encounter someone and you have a moral dilemma, he just wants to kill them.
Best kind of companion.
He's great. I don't know. He had me laughing so much. It was one of the first characters where I was like, oh, this is just amazing. This is the best thing ever. Yeah, I don't know. He's just so good. Conan, did you guys play it? You haven't played it. Look, Conan, you remember
I haven't played it.
though, right?
Yeah, I borrowed your copy. I remember on the original Xbox back in the day. Yeah, HK47 I adore. He was one of those, like I say, in a game that's sort of dealing with a lot of heavy-handed stuff like the light side and the dark, he comes along and just provides this really good, just like irreverence to it all. He's like, nah, I want to kill things. We should kill things. And yeah, he's very funny. He's very sharp. It's kind of like Bender, but in a
more murdery kind of way.
He's got sort of that renegade hint to it. And what it really captures the most, I think, is it's become kind of trite now, that whole aloof droid where it's like they don't really understand human life. And every Star Wars movie now has a droid companion who's like, he's funny because he says the things that we're all thinking and he doesn't really understand politenesses, and it's really tiring and really dumb. But HK47 was kind of one of the first to do that, but it did it in a good way. It wasn't hokey. It wasn't trying to be cute. It was just like, this is a murder droid, and so of course he's sort of void of these morals and these qualms. And it is funny to consider this stuff. He was the best companion in that game.
Yeah, I even though I always played light side, I always had him with me just because, like, that game really, I think it revolutionized like dialogue in games a lot. Like, it was one of the first ones where you're making choices and it's affecting the game, and he would interject and he would provide you information. He'd be like translating something like, I'm 96% sure that they want help with this problem. There's a 4% chance they want to be murdered. I'm not sure. That might be just my bias. And it's just like, I love this guy. He's got to come with me everywhere. He's going to tell me to kill everyone, and that's okay. I'm a good guy. I'm not going to do that. But he's, I don't know. Every time, I don't know. Call me a meatbag from now on. I don't mind. I loved it. It was so good.
I hope they do him justice in the remake, because
so do I.
Yeah.
I'm really, really keen to play that game. And
he's definitely he's also a character in that game that had some cut content. So like there was going to be some, you could go find out his origin and stuff like that, and it never happened. So I'm hoping that some of that stuff gets restored too. Because like as far as development, there's not much for him. It was just having him there and having him interject in these conversations and stuff was just so good. And like you say, I feel like they copy him a lot now with droids and things.
Yeah,
I think so. It's like a trope now. It's very much.
I mean, one of my other characters is going to be probably directly influenced by HK47, but we'll get
HK48.
Conan, have you ranked your list?
Sort of. Like it's not tight, but it was a loose sort of like, this person needs to be behind them.
Man, I photoshopped a podium and everything.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you went to town with this stuff.
I struggled with the third place. I was like, I kept erasing them and putting someone else on there.
No, see,
Conan, what's your number 5?
So my ranking's get a bit tricky because I intentionally avoided most of like the big ones you can think of, like your Master Chief, your Scorpion, your Link, your Commander Shepherds, like these iconic sort of characters that everyone knows. And, every list you look up of like top 50 video game characters, it's the exact same list every time.
Yeah.
So I tried to avoid those as much as I can. So my number 5 is Knight Solaire of Astora from Dark Souls 1. What a character.
If only I could be so gloriously incandescent.
This could also be swapped with Sigmire of Katarina. I don't know. They're both pretty wonderful. So I know we've talked about Dark
This is the
Souls at
Praise the
length.
Sun guy, correct?
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
even I know that. Yeah.
And that's what I mean. My list that I've made is kind of based on. I've tried to base it as much as I can on story design, fun to play, iconography, how realized they are, the influence they've had, and their remaining relevance, like how people are still, think of these characters or look at them. And Knights of Ler kind of became a big meme in himself. He became sort of the poster boy for Dark Souls, I think.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
like that action, the standing up, that just kind
Praise
of
the sun.
became that just became a thing that again, people who'd never played these games sort of knew about and had seen on the internet somewhere. And so
Yep.
besides all of that sort of endearing stuff, he's just a really great character in a game that is filled with really good characters, but really depressing characters. He is so he starts off so optimistic and so kind of like, cheerful in a that's relative though. It's cheerful for this world.
Yeah.
It's just a really interesting sort of, he's talking about the sun. He's like, I love the sun. The sun's awesome. I want to, and you wonder if he's kind of wants to get a bit freaky with the sun. And it's like, that's cool. That you do you in this world, man. But then following his quest as well and seeing it either fail or succeed is really kind of either harrowing or heartwarming. And it's just, it's these games that kind of make you care for these characters that are so bizarre and unrelatable. And I think, I look at him, I'm like, he's just a character you kind of love.
Conan,
Yes.
do you feel like he somehow inspired like Willem Dafoe's character in The Lighthouse?
No, not at all.
Just sounded similar with the obsession with the light and the sun.
Oh, I see that. No, he's
Yeah.
this guy's Knight Solaire is far too normal. Willem Dafoe is weirder.
Yeah.
Now, Luke, you never played Dark Souls, right?
No. I played Demon Souls. I've played Bloodborne. I've played Dark Souls 3.
Okay.
I've played Dark Souls. I haven't finished Dark Souls.
Haven't finished yet. So, did you ever meet Knight Solaire or?
Not that,
No.
not like to the point I'd remember. I played it when it first released on PS3, and then
You'd remember him if you met him.
Yeah.
That's without a doubt. Griner, what was your opinion of him?
He is great. He, like you say, he's like one of the only like positive characters in that game. And I mean, like his quest, I don't know, his quest was weird. Like it was very hard to do without a guide, but it was really kind of interesting to see where it went. But yeah, he's just, it's amazing how much of a meme that became. Like so often in Reddit, you see people, saying praise the sun, and they do a little stick figure with the arms up in the air. And even Elden Ring has an emote where you do a ring up in the air like this, and it's very, very similar. And people always I always spam it at the end of co-op and stuff. It's just fun. Yeah, he's just a really fun character. And it's interesting. Like that game is pretty Japanese, right? Like it feels like a lot of things in that game are lost in translation. And I wonder if that character was intended to be that way, or if it's another one of those things that's lost in translation, but it works. He's an interesting character that way too. And I always summoned him when he was available. I think he's available like 2 fights, but he's so good.
But he was there, yeah. But he's kind of the poster boy for this franchise now, which is interesting.
I definitely feel like he's like, I have a hoodie of him, like of his outfit, like with the green and the sun on there.
Yeah.
Like it's he transcended that.
Yeah, because there's no protagonist for these games. Obviously, there's no sort of iconic. There's no Master Chief for this franchise. There's
people really love Artorias, but he's only a character in the DLC and in the lore, essentially. And he's got a cool story too. But yeah, I think Knight Solaire is definitely became a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Well, to follow up from those two, my 5 is a big one. Arthur Morgan, Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, Griner, being a PC guy, have you played Red Dead Redemption 2?
No, I keep considering it, but I just don't know.
You played the first one?
It's for me. I have. I love the first one.
Yeah, true. Conan, Arthur Morgan, what a man.
Look, what a man, what a mighty good man.
Yeah.
Arthur Morgan is...
Like, here's the thing. I feel like Arthur Morgan, to me, obviously you follow him along on this long journey. The game, 100 hours. The amount of content you get with him, and just you see the journey he takes. And obviously there's morality choices and basically sort of two different endings and two different sort of character arcs that Arthur can take. I like to believe that the deer ending is the true ending, obviously, unless you're a psychopath,
Unless you're a knob.
like my brother. But I feel like the journey he takes in that ending is really profound. So many like quest lines and quotes from that game. Obviously, performance is brilliant for Arthur Morgan as well. Like I'll always remember that voice.
Yeah.
And some of the lines that he says. I don't want to spoil stuff in the game, but like for those who know, like the train station scene with the nun,
Mm.
stays with me.
Yeah.
Him and John Marston, their like few last scenes together. His whole thing with the gang with Dutch is great. The whole story arc with the lady out in the forest, wilderness, um, high up on the map on her own, who's lost her husband, and you sort of teach her how to survive like on her own, and it's like a great little like relationship and bond and friendship that they have. Obviously, him trying to make amends for the wrongs he's done with a woman and a young boy is amazing as well. I just think Arthur Morgan is top character. Conan, what do you think?
Yeah, he's one of a kind. One of a kind, that's the phrase. I don't it's like how can you spend 80 hours with somebody and not sort of,
Bond.
not bond, not grow that connection? And when they are so well written, like this game was huge for a reason. It
Yep.
did, it had some problems, sure, but it can't be faulted on the character. Everyone was a great character. And Arthur Morgan truly was like one of the sort of archetypal greats. He belongs in the great American novel. He
Yep.
belongs to the myth of the West, and he really is that kind of embodies all that sort of stuff, the optimism of the era, but also the fatalism, the the inability to sort of escape the life of crime, but also the sort of the moral desire to do that, and sort of how
Yeah.
how being corrupt sort of once you go bad, you can't really leave that behind. It taints you.
Yep.
So there's just a lot of those, grand concepts that sort of we know are embodied in him and explored in him, and to such an amazing extent. Like they humanize the crap out of him, and they keep fleshing it out.
Yep.
And yeah, by the end of it, you're like, oh, this is a person. This is somebody who I know. I've spent 100 hours with this guy, and
Yep.
he's complex and he's relatable. And at the end of it, it's like you're saying about which ending's correct. I think what that game does so well is it almost forces. It's very hard to play that game and not go good. I feel
Yeah.
it almost seems weird to play it and be like, I'm going to go evil after everything this game's showing me is
I
hinting
just
at
don't get it,
the
man.
opposite.
I don't get it.
And I truly think the people who sort of pick the evil side don't pay attention to the story, right? They
Yeah.
go through and they play the missions and they like shooting pistols.
Yep.
But if you
And
actually
just like shooting people.
basically they play the game just as it very basically. Whereas I think if you are actually listening to the story and really observing that, it's just like, well, how can I sort of be evil when I'm getting a very clear picture of this character?
Yep.
And it's remarkable to be able to do that.
I think it's possibly one of, if not the best arc for a character in video game
Quite
history. I feel
possibly.
like because
Yeah.
it's done so well. He comes from one end to completely the other, and I feel like I remember leading up to Red Dead 2, I had this whole thing of like, they're not going to be able to top John Marston, like,
Yeah, everyone thought that.
and just the trailers, like they showed nothing of his character. It was like, who's this boring ass dude in Red Dead 2? He ain't John Marston. Where's John Marston?
Yeah.
And then by the end of by the end of Red Dead 2, I was like, screw John Marston. Where's Arthur Morgan? Like, I I always thought John Marston was such a great character in Red Dead 1, and Red Dead 2 just blew it out of the water, I feel like personally, um, in terms of Arthur Morgan versus John Marston. But yeah, fantastic character.
Yeah.
Griner, what is your next pick?
My next character is John Marston. No, keeping with the the theme of characters that went through a lot of growth, but are also murderous robots. GLaDOS.
There we
from
go.
the
There's a
Portal
theme. There's a
series.
theme to your game.
Yeah. No, GLaDOS is just like she probably. I feel like maybe now that I've talked it out a bit, she might be a bit based on HK47. But Portal is a good game because of GLaDOS, and
Yes.
I mean she transcends these games. She was the voice of the robots in Pacific Rim. Like she's just so good. I don't know. She's just so much. That character really just brings everything to Portal 1. Like from the start, like you're just so off put by this robot, and you're not 100% sure, and she just gets more and more deranged as you go. She just has some really good lines.
Mm-hmm.
And it is that thing, like, there'll be cake at the end of this test. Like, don't really understand what humans want, but they're just, she's just trying to get you on her side. And like you're right, it's probably been done to death now, but I feel like GLaDOS is another one of those really good examples of that kind of droid.
Yeah.
GLaDOS GLaDOS is huge. Like
Mm.
GLaDOS, that the cake is a lie again became its own meme.
Huge meme. Yeah.
Everywhere. Everyone was saying that. Everyone was throwing it out. Yeah, I could be inspired by, but I think GLaDOS kind of
Evolved on it.
created a new breed of murderous
for
robots.
Sure. Yep.
So you're right, like that game kind of sucks about GLaDOS, and I don't mean the game is bad, but I mean in that it would be a somewhat not boring, but a bit of a slog of an exercise because you'd just be solving these puzzles.
Pretty rote puzzle game without her.
Yeah, whereas she really does just bring character and just enjoyment. Yeah.
Yeah, and that moment where she turns on you, and it's definitely telegraphed before that, but it's still like, holy crap, I'm about to die, and then you escape, and she's like just losing it at you. I don't know. It's always going to be one of my favorite memories in video games, and it's all because of her. So, and just so well performed as well. Amazing.
Yeah. I like Conan said, she's definitely transcended that series, as in like became part of meme culture and everything like that. Like without playing Portal for years, like I knew like so many lines from her. Everyone knows the cake is a lie, sort of thing. I love Portal 2, and she's great in that again, obviously. But yeah, anytime I picture sarcastic, killer, dry humor robots, it's GLaDOS. She's the only one I think I could predict from your list. I was like, no, she'll be on Grona's list. I was like, I know it.
Just the passive aggressive comments she makes throughout it are just, they're so much fun. And like I said, it does that really good job of, you're never quite sure if it's like maybe she's evil or maybe she's generally just doesn't. She's a real robot and she doesn't understand.
Yeah. It just plays that line so well until the moment where it's revealed, and it's like, well, she's obviously evil, obviously trying to kill me. And then just her descent into madness and fury at you, and like how impotent that fury is because she has no control over the structures that you're in now and stuff. It's so, I don't know. Just favorite gaming memory ever, and it's because of her.
Yeah. Conan, what's your number 4?
Number 4. All right, my number 4 is actually a pair, a duo, if you will. Because they can't be they can't be separated. They can't be one or the other. It's Banjo-Kazooie. Everyone's favorite bear and bird combo. Everyone's favorite anthropomorphic creatures wearing backpacks and stuff. It's these. I don't know how to even begin. Right, my childhood is tied up with these games. Banjo-Kazooie are so fun. They're so lovable. They are so. Have you guys played these games? I don't even know.
No, I haven't.
I played them when I was a kid, obviously. Like played the crap out of them on Nintendo 64. Never followed through, obviously, when they came to the original Xbox because I was a PlayStation guy.
No one did.
Like I was playing the much superior Ratchet and Clank, which sort of evolved on that whole dynamic. But
sure. Very clearly ripped it off. That's what you mean.
Yeah. But no, like I have a fond memory for those games and those characters as well. And I mean, they look cool. Like what a colorful group of characters. Like that's a great character design.
I mean, this is the thing, like just the concept, right? You're a bear with a backpack and yellow shorts. You got a bird in there that just bursts out and pecks people to death. That's already really fun.
Yeah. But
it's just and like I said, it went on to influence things like Ratchet and Clank. It's essentially the same model.
Yeah.
I just think though, what makes it work is these games, Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, not the third one, but those two are so funny, and their banter and their interactions with other characters, they really do create these really fun characters. So what you've got is Banjo's obviously a lot more cool and level-headed, but he's a bit more aloof as well. He's not stupid, but he's just, he's kind of like, yeah, I'm going to go do this because that's what I got to do. Whereas Kazooie is very just sharp-witted and
Yeah.
very kind of critical. But at the same time, it's like she's a bird in a backpack. She talks big because she knows she's got Banjo with her there. And
Yeah.
their back and forth is kind of like this brother and sister, where he gets really annoyed with her, and she kind of gets, teases him. It's just playing the game is fun because of that. The interactions with people is just it really brings this huge character, and the way they interact with everyone else is just so much fun. It's one of those examples I think that the games would be a lot less than they are if the characters weren't actually there.
Yeah.
But yeah, by having them there and by having just everyone they talk to have a really funny comments, and like Grunty the witch, she's always making quips, and then every time they talk about her or two, or they respond kind, it's just hilarious, and I love it.
Is there room in 2022 in the gaming world for Banjo-Kazooie?
I was going to ask this. What do you think the future of Banjo-Kazooie is?
The future is ukulele, and I don't know if that. I don't really know what happened with that game.
Have you played Yooka-Laylee?
I've got it downloaded.
Because that's fascinating. Because I associate, when I hear Banjo-Kazooie, I picture your face. Like that's.
Well, I look like a bear.
And like for this to be the team that made that with a new series, for you to not played it yet is a bit of a surprise to me.
Because I'm in my late 20s. Like I'm fully aware that these games are not going to have. Like I'm fully aware that Banjo-Kazooie I love because I played it as a child. I don't think I'm going to be able to come into, even if I was to come into Banjo-Kazooie with fresh eyes at this age, I wouldn't enjoy it as much. Like they are games geared towards younger audiences, and like any sort of kids property, they have a lot of jokes that go over kids' heads, and they're really funny
Yeah.
when you're older. And I'm sure Ukulele has that, but I just don't. I don't think I'm going to get the same enjoyment out of it, even if it is as good a game as Banjo-Kazooie on a technical sense. I'm just at a different stage of life. I'm not going to have the same.
So if it was Banjo-Kazooie, would you have played it?
Probably, because like I played Nuts and Bolts on 360 because I was like, I want to play Banjo-Kazooie and I want to have another game, and it sucked.
Yep.
And so I think if they made Banjo-Kazooie 4, Banjo 3E is what it should be called. If they made that, and it was like we're all the Rareware guys and we all just formed a game company and made one game, I would buy the crap out of it.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, like nostalgia's a hell of a thing, right?
Sure is.
It is. Moving on, my number 4. I think you'll get a sense that my games are very story based with these characters. So number 4 is Geralt of Rivia from the Witcher series, but more so The Witcher 3 for me because that's the only one I've played. What can you say about Geralt? Obviously, he's turned into Superman now, and he's Netflix, and he's Henry Cavill, and everyone loves him. But The Witcher 3's Geralt is such an amazing character to me. I feel like he's my favorite character in any open world game, like especially like playable character wise. I feel like his voice acting is amazing. His line delivery, just like the dry, not like sarcastic, but just his dry like take on things. Like he's, very pessimistic about certain things. But like how loyal he is to Ciri, depending on if you're a good person and actually play it correctly. And like, but the bond with Ciri, his relationships with Yennefer and Triss and everything like that is just amazing. Like, I love this character. I love the journey you go throughout that. And I just know Witcher 3, I feel like I put more time into than any game in the last decade or so. And I know after like 300 hours, I was still enjoying, like, finding new quests. And when I do it, enjoying Geralt of Rivia and his interactions with people. And that only continued with the expansion packs where, like, the Blood and Wine one, there's a vampire character that's an old friend of his, and there's just scenes where it's him and Geralt talking for like 20 minutes, and they're basically like two old chaps like that are like 1 week from retirement, just like talking about being old and beaten up, and it's just it's awesome to see. And I was so worried when the Netflix show was announced because like Doug Cockle's Geralt is Geralt to me. But that seems to be the case for that was Geralt for Henry Cavill as well, because he's very much inspired his performance, his voice off The Witcher 3's Geralt. To the point that I'm able to enjoy it and see it as like, inspired from that. But
Multiverse.
I love that character so much. Griner, you've played Witcher 3.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
The Witchers and Geralt in general, like there's such a genius idea for an RPG because there's a real lack of there's nothing pushing you to adopt any sort of morals. Like Geralt's there to get paid and kill monsters. He's not there to be a good guy. He's not there to be a bad guy. And any of that you put onto the character, it comes from you. Like it's not part of the character. And there's not many games out there that do that. Like even as much as I love Knights of the Republic, that game punishes you hard if you decide not to pick the light or the dark side. Like you miss out on so many abilities by not choosing one or the other. And this game is like, you pick the morals. It doesn't matter if you're good one time, bad another time, and it works. It just works really well. And you're right. He's like the character has performed so well. There's those great relationships, like you say, and like even he's in like the Bloody Baron quest. I'll think about that game forever. That quest forever. It's like one of the best examples of a quest in a game. And just the characters and the interactions and like the development of all of them in that section. But just Geralt's handling of all of that is so much fun. Like he's such a good character.
And that's the thing. Like I feel like you can have this great scene with Ciri, and he's been very he's a great guy and he has this great bond with her, and then you can go to a random town and be an asshole to someone and make them pay you more coins than what they have because you're like, no, if you want me to go hunt this monster, you need to cough up some coin. And then just like the next person in the next town be like, no worries, I'll do it for free. I like you. And it's great. And all of that feels natural. It doesn't feel like it's a character flip-flopping, changing back and forth. It feels consistent with whatever you choose for him to do. But there's some lines of dialogue in that game that just crack me up, and I'll YouTube them every now and again. In the Hearts of Stone expansion, there's this really creepy looking monster, like the Gravedigger or something. It's like got a sewed up face, and you just there's this little cinematic of you see him like emerging in the shadows, and it cuts back to gameplay, and Geralt's just like, "What the fuck was that?" It's just perfect. It's just the way he delivers the line just cracks me up every time. Conan, what's your thoughts on Geralt of Rivia?
Yeah, I like Geralt. He's cool. Cool dude.
You don't love Geralt?
Everyone, of course I've played it. I got busy finding flags, or I don't know, going out to the ocean and finding chests with pointless weapons, and I gave up. No, I mean, like Geralt is not revolutionized, but Geralt was a big thing. The Witcher was a big thing. And you can see that the fact they made 2 seasons of a Netflix show, like people loved this character. And it seems almost like we're overdue, and the books were written quite a while ago. But having like a fantasy character, like Grana said, that isn't obsessed with morality, it seems so simple now. But I don't know. These are kind of the first games that I think really explored that heavily. Like this is a fantasy world that isn't good or evil. It's just, and the tagline says it all. Like this world doesn't need a hero; it needs a professional. Like that's it. Game of Thrones has kind of gone on to make that pretty common now.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know, this game does something else with that. It's just like this, it's a fantasy world of wizards and sorcerers, but there's no such thing as good or evil. And that's fascinating. And like I say, Geralt is just kind of he's always the perfect character for people, for an audience member, because he kind of says what audiences are always thinking. He's not caught up in like, I have to do the right thing. He's not caught up in presenting himself. He's like, I'm an outcast in this world. I am a complete outsider, like the reader or the player. So if someone does something, I can say something like whatever I want, He could just say something cold and dry and just say, I don't care what you think. Everyone's at this bar looking at me, probably going to try to stab me. Yeah, I could break some hands if I want to. And it's like, that's how we feel coming into this world, because we see it as all this weird place. And like, we don't care about the good or evil of it. We just want to, we want to see the mechanics. And so he is the perfect surrogate. And he's just so much fun to explore the world with that person. It's like, he doesn't have a reverence for anything. That's sweet. How nice is that?
Yep. You nailed it. Grana, you're number 3. Or you're the next one on your list.
The next one was, let me introduce you to Axe from Dota 2. Axe,
the book of the Bible.
Axe, AXE. Axe is a big red warrior who wields, you guessed it, an axe. He refers to himself as Axe and his axe in third person. I find his dialogue pretty funny. He just says stupid stuff like, there is no battle till Axe is at hand, and Axe is. He's just, I don't know. But the gameplay, I love the gameplay of Axe. He's my favorite character to play. His whole thing is that when people attack him, he does damage to the people that attack him. So your whole goal as Axe is to get as tanky as possible, jump into the middle of the enemy lineup, use your ability that taunts them all and has them all attacking you, and they kill themselves as they attack you. And it's just, brilliant. I don't know, I love it. It's so much fun, like getting that perfect blink in and the call and having everyone attack you and then just melt around you. Like, he's a big team player, obviously, because, you know, that's really supporting your team a lot. I don't know. Axe is a lot of fun to play. I really enjoy his lines. The idea of this big red dude referring to himself as the axe that he's wielding, basically, is funny. And I don't know. You guys don't know Axe, obviously. You should know Axe. No, he's great.
I want to know Axe now.
I love Axe. Great.
I know Valve's writing, and I know that they just write characters really well in this stuff. So I can imagine that.
There's lots of really well written characters in Dota 2. Like, it's not a story game by any means, but you know, when you're playing as Ogre Magi and you're a two-headed ogre and they argue amongst each other as you play, like it's a lot of fun. Valve has done a very good job with the characters in Dota 2. They all feel very unique and have all their own personalities. But I don't know, Axe is a cut above, as he would say.
Nice. Really Conan, obviously you haven't played Dota 2, or you don't know Axe that well?
No, never played it. But I was going to say I'm going to compare it to some Team Fortress characters, but I assume they'll come up, so we'll leave that till later.
Yeah. I just pictured Gimli, but a lot funnier. So
yeah, he's like a big red Gimli.
Nice. I like
he's
it.
Reminding. Yeah, I don't know. It's almost like Hellboy as well.
Yeah, a little bit Hellboyish.
Gimli.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I don't expect you guys to have a lot of questions about Axe. Axe is a pretty simple guy, but
what weapon does he wield?
He wields an axe. Every variation, every skin, it's always an axe. Lots of other characters, you know, the skins change their weapons. Not him. Actually, no, there's one skin where it replaces it with his fists, and so Axe becomes the axe, and it's very funny. But that's it. That's the only skin where he doesn't have an axe.
That's great. At least he doesn't use a sword in that. That's good.
That's right.
Yeah.
Conan, sorry. You're number 3.
Number 3, all right. I was trying hard, like I said, to avoid the mainstays, but there's one that I have to mention. It's Joel Miller. It's from a game called The Last of Us. He's in the Hall of Fame of grizzled white fathers. You know, yes. It's a big gaming trope now, but I honestly don't want to say much about Joel Miller because we've talked at length about all the Last of Us's in this. And I assume you have a lot more to say later, Luke. So I'll just say
I'll be talking about Joel Miller later.
Joel Miller is pretty cool. I wish he was my dad, and I hope to one day be him.
You're on your way.
Killed a lot of people to get here.
Kind of ironic. My number 3 is actually Ellie Williams from The Last of Us.
You're going to say Abby.
No. So obviously, same thing as Joel. Ellie's the perfect counterpunch to Joel. I feel like their bond, their relationship that they have through, especially the first game, like you can't move past it in the first game. Like that father-daughter, relationship that they have is so special. And being a father to a daughter named Ellie, it's like I don't know, some awesome game I played years ago. Like it's just she's such a great character. I feel like, you know, someone who's born in the pandemic, which there's a lot of them now, pandemic babies. But back then, when this game came out, it was kind of a novel idea, and like she's just her sarcasm, like her lack of knowledge of what this world was like before, and like the way she sort of views everything in like, like she's there with the magazines being like, what the hell? Like, is this what people spent their time with? Like,
Mm.
what, like they just, all they thought about was what clothes to buy or what to do to impress boys or whatever. She's like, it's so stupid. Like, we're out here every day trying to not get eaten by plant monsters. Like, what is this world that you guys lived in? It's super strange. Like my favorite thing in the first one is her the joke book. Just every now and again, just pulls out the joke book in gameplay and just pulls out the worst dad jokes, which I now quote all the time. But there's a lot of rawness. Like Ashley Johnson plays her, and her performance as her is heartbreaking. So many scenes where there's obviously the ranch scene where Joel tries to, get rid of her. He doesn't want this on his conscience. He doesn't want another daughter, that he's
Yeah.
failed or anything like that. And she doesn't want to lose another person like in that role either. And it's heartbreaking. And those performances, and because obviously it's not just limited to the first Last of Us, but Last of Us 2 is her game, shared with somebody else. But like her performance in that, there's so many scenes where it just performed so like expertly that it's like you're watching a human. Like it's like the performance is so real and heartbreaking in certain scenes, and the story she goes through in number 2, that vengeance, that drive, that revenge. It's yeah. I There's not much to say that hasn't been said by everybody else who's done these sort of lists, but Ellie, all time great.
You don't feel like her character's a little undone in number 2?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. We just go back to our Last of Us pod.
We did a podcast
We
about
disagreed
this.
on this already. Conan, what's your thoughts on Ellie?
Yeah, it's the perfect, like I say, it's perfect partnership having, the burned old man. It's pretty tried and true.
Yeah.
The burned old man who's just worn out on life, and the plucky youngster who's kind of like doesn't want to be here either. They're an odd couple. They're thrown into it. No one wants to do it, but they have to, and they learn
Yeah.
to love.
Yeah.
And again, like you say, it's filled with such humanity and performance and depth. And it's just all those little moments like the joke book, like the interactions with the environment, and sort of watching her learn to whistle as you go on.
Yeah.
And how, eventually she becomes more comfortable with water. You see her react to the giraffes and sort of these character moments are just like, just by being, it's like, yeah, that's kind of how it works, right? You spend time with someone, you gradually learn what they like and what you like, and you share yourself.
Yeah.
And, I still to this day sometimes think about that part where she's at a cafe and she's like, what's all this stuff? And Joel's like, I used to go to cafes all the time. And she's like, why? What'd you get there? He's like, just coffee.
Yeah.
And it becomes this recurring thing where he's like, man, I miss coffee. I'm like, Joel, you get me? And Ellie
Yeah.
wouldn't know what that's like. And that's hard, And I would want to share that with her. And anyway. And like I say, I think it did these games set a benchmark for like that, the mocap sort of standard, and just watching the
Performance,
performances. And it's like, this is almost like watching people. I truly feel like Ellie's real.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a pretty remarkable thing what they did.
Yeah. 100%. Grana, any thoughts on Ellie that we haven't already said?
Yeah, no, she's great. Yeah, like I say, these games really set a standard for like building characters as you play, having them talk and chat as you're exploring the world and encountering enemies. It's very, very well done. Performed very, very well. I think her character's a little undone in number 2, but that's my opinion.
Grana, your pick for number 2. Or just
my fourth
your next
pick,
one on your list.
The next one on my list is Kerrigan, Queen of Blades from StarCraft.
This is such a Grana list. I love it.
Who else's list would it be?
No, I know. I'm not ripping on you. I'm not. I like it. I love it.
You've leaned into it.
When I booted up StarCraft, I was expecting an RTS. I wasn't expecting to grow attached to characters and their relationships, and then have them turned on their head. I guess if you don't know, Kerrigan, she's a good guy in the first few chapters. Her and what's the
Jim Raynor.
Jim Raynor. Her and Jim Raynor, partners in crime, taking out the Zerg, taking out the baddies, and then she gets left behind basically. Rayna's basically ordered to leave her, and she then becomes the queen of the Zerg. She runs the whole bad guy faction.
Yeah.
It's a great turn of events. And then number 2, they really play up the relationship between Jim and Kerrigan, and she finally comes around and brings the Zerg to do good things. I don't know. It's just like I feel like you never got that kind of storytelling in that kind of game back in those days. Like Age of Empires 2 does not have that kind of story.
No, it didn't.
Even Warcraft 2 doesn't have that kind of story, really. Like StarCraft really did an amazing job of giving you these characters that you care about that are recurring in throughout the campaigns, and yeah, like the fact that she evolves from this sniper in the first chapter to the queen of the Zerg is really cool. It's a really fun. Like I definitely wasn't expecting it. Like when she's left behind on that planet, I'm like, oh man, this game's going to be dealing with Jim Rayna's grief. No, this game's dealing with her becoming a badass and controlling the Zerg.
It's great.
Yeah.
So being someone who like pushes like RTSs away with a 10-foot pole, how is this story told? Is it through cinematics like after each?
It's a bit of both. So the characters talk as you play. You got their little heads chatting in the corner. And they have little radio calls. And then there's obviously cutscenes as well throughout.
Would you say the performance is good as well? Is that?
I mean, the voice acting was really good, I think, for the time. But I mean, they're sprites back in the old days. Like it's very, very old. StarCraft 1 looks very, very old by modern standards. But I think some of those cutscenes kind of stand up. Like Blizzard has always been very, very good at doing those cutscenes. Obviously, they're very, very old now. They're not even, they're not 1080p or anything like that. But the fact that they told this story about this character that I really enjoyed in an RTS very much surprised me when I was younger, and always has a special place in my heart.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, she's pretty great. Like I feel like all my friends who were in StarCraft really adored their relationship because it was really nice. It did feel and like I say, it was a big sort of reveal. It wasn't a twist ending. It was like, no, this is part of the story. Like you've just taken a character, and again, we take that for granted now. But for the longest time, it's been like, no, a main character, you can't kill the main characters. You can't do anything with them. And like I said, they pretty early on, like, no, she's actually the villain. It's like, crap, I didn't know you could do this in this kind of thing. But
yeah, I guess Luke, to give it a bit more context, there's like 3 chapters in StarCraft 1, and you play as each faction. So you start off as the humans. You're playing with Jim and Kerrigan, and then she gets left behind on the planet. And then by the time you play the Zerg, you're playing with her and controlling her army, and gives you both sides of the story. It's really cool. Exceptionally well done. I mean, Blizzard, the glory days of Blizzard were always really good at this sort of stuff, and it'll always have a special place in my heart.
Oh, nice.
For shiz.
Conan, your number 2 pick.
Number two is a character you can't play as again. I think sometimes video games will get these opportunities where watching and listening and observing is more important than actually participating. Now, have you guys ever heard of a character named Andrew Ryan?
Yes.
Would you kindly explain him to me?
There it is. So the big bad of BioShock. I have talked at length about BioShock, my love, my passion, my undying, borderline erotic attraction to this game. I can't get enough of it. I want it all in me. And Andrew Ryan, just goodness me, this game really did change me because it introduced the idea of philosophy into games for me, and I think for a generation. Just combining this idea of like Randy and it's not exceptionalism. I always forget what a philosophy is called because it's got a dumb name. Objectivism. Randy and objectivism, throwing into this game and having Andrew Ryan as this monologuing, sort of omnipresent spectre throughout the game who always talks over the city, who gives these long speeches, just has this incredible... The performance in this game is immaculate. Just his voice and his cadence and the rhythm. Like, he feels like a charismatic cult leader who you would fall under. He feels like somebody who, as he explains why he built a city under the sea in the 1950s, why he's escaping this world of parasites. Like, you're just like, yeah, I fully get that. I want to be here with you because he sells it. It's really just one of those cases, like, this is this megalomaniac villain. And we've kind of got them a lot now as well. We have things like, the other big one comes to mind is like Vast from Far Cry,
Yeah, I was
where
gonna
it's like you
say.
have
Yep.
this one really amazing villain who talks to you a lot and really absorbs you. And we sort of had a lot of those sort of recreated from there. But I don't know. I highly doubt he was the first, but Andrew Ryan is the one that sticks out in my mind as this enigmatic character who you're trying to find, who just you never feel like you can escape. And
Yep.
his philosophy oozes into everything. And then obviously he's got one of the most amazing reveals where you find out that "Would you kindly" is a trigger phrase, and then you put a
Yep.
golf club in his face. Like he goes out like a baller. He says, "No, no, I'm not going to die as a slave. I'm going to die as a man getting clubbed
Goes
to
out
death."
like a golf ball.
Like a golf baller, man. It's nuts. Just- and again, like this is a character that I think a lot of people know about and still like. Obviously, he's not cool looking. He's not a warrior with a sword. He's not the Queen of Blades, but he's just he has a gravitas to him that I think really is interesting in gaming. You don't get that a lot. You don't get these characters who are just cool, calm, and fascinating to just listen to. But
Yeah.
that's what he is. He's the most interesting person in a room at all times.
Yeah. No, like that's the thing. You can't separate the original Bioshock from Andrew Ryan in that reveal. Like it goes hand in hand, and I feel like it influenced so many games after that. Like you said with Vast, but I feel like it became such a thing of having like the villain being like the charismatic person that the game's focused around almost, and like
Yeah.
the protagonist is basically just a vessel for you to play the game. But Andrew Ryan's fantastic. Like you are the Bioshock dude, Conan. Like if I've ever known one, I'm
Okay,
surprised
fine.
you don't have like the chain tattoos. When are they
I
going to happen?
I legit, if I ever get tattoos, it will be that. That is
Yeah,
what it like
yeah,
110%. I've thought about it a lot,
yeah.
and I'm be like, I used to draw them on my wrists in school during maths because that's
That's
just who
great.
I am. And I'm like, that would be if I was ever gonna get a tattoo, that would be it, without a
Yeah,
doubt.
no.
Um,
Awesome. Grano, any thoughts on Andrew Ryan?
I've never played Bioshock 1.
Oh, that's right.
It's a deep dark shame.
Wow.
Look, I tried it once. Conan had talked it up a lot, and he's
Yeah.
like, "It's not a hard game. You should just play it on hard because you get all the achievements then." So I tried doing that, and then died a lot to the first Big Daddy, and I'm like, I'm not playing this game anymore.
yeah, actually, he
I
kills
sh-
you a bit.
Conan.
I should go back to it, but
That's why
Yeah.
it was your fault for listening to me.
I
I
shouldn't
keep
have.
saying
You're
you should
right.
never listen to me.
I should have known you were a much more skilled gamer than I am. I can't handle it like you can.
He overestimated your gaming
Just-
ability.
Just bloody get good.
Yeah. My number 2, one of my favorite video game characters of all time, obviously my second favorite technically. Nathan Drake from the Uncharted series.
Tom Holland.
So Nolan North, obviously, these Uncharted games. I feel like Uncharted, same year as Bioshock, 2007 came out. I feel like Uncharted was the first game where really I loved the protagonist. Like Drake was so charming, hilarious, awesome. I feel like he was one of the first video game characters where I was like, I want to be like him. Like he's clever, he's witty, he's sarcastic, and I feel like he's
He wears a
sort
cool
of
shirt.
he has his shirt half tucked, like the half tuck
Yeah.
look, man. It's great, I feel like it was one of the first things where he's like the perfect, I feel like, video game protagonist, as in not for like a role playing game, obviously, but as in it's just fun to play. Like, back then in 2007, you weren't having characters that were in third person shooters, at least, that were just like making quips after actions that you were doing in the game. Like, you'd do a headshot, you'd run up and punch someone in the face, and he'd just be like, "Yeah, kitty got wet." It's just like, what does that mean? And Nolan North improvised that line because apparently his son said it at home and he thought it was funny, so he improvised it. But there's just like random, like funny things that he tries to be funny and then he mumbles to himself. He's like, I shouldn't have said that. I should have done this. Or like that was stupid. That no one's listening to me. What am I doing? Like, and just like the self-talk, which now every game does.
Yeah.
Every game has someone that's sarcastic and quips everything to themselves while they're climbing buildings, and like they can't help it. They just have to make little comments. And Marvel really made that popular where everybody's personality has sarcasm in it.
Yeah,
When
everyone's the
when
same
that's
character.
not a thing in real life. I've met people. A lot of people aren't sarcastic. But like I feel like really he influenced like me growing up. Like 2007, I would have been what, 14, 15, when I played this. And I know I try to be a lot more sarcastic and funny. I try to be Drake to my friends. Like, and I am now, after all these years I've achieved it. But Tom Holland's now taken that spotlight away from me. But
Bastard.
I just feel like as the journey goes on through the 4 games, like I remember when Uncharted 4 came out, I was a father. Um, I was definitely feeling my age. I was an old man, and playing this journey where now he's like, oh, like I'm getting too old for this shit. Like one last heist. Like that's here we go. And he's a family man. Like he's settled down. He's got a wife. He's like trying to do right, and trying not to go around stealing treasure and shooting a million people in a month. But like what his character goes through in number 4, and Conan, like you've played it,
I
um,
have.
really spoke to me. And I remember just being like, man, like I feel like I've grown with this character a lot, and like this journey was amazing. And obviously, they're not in my list of top 5, but the whole cast of Uncharted is amazing. Elena, Sully, his brother, just awesome, awesome characters, and all of them with Drake is such a great cast, in my opinion. Tom Holland does his best at trying to replicate it, but he's no Nolan North. It's just, I love this character, I really do. And you know, Nolan North's performance as this basically made Nolan North who he is and got him. But he basically became every character from 2007 to
Hmm,
2011. He was
pretty
the voice of
much.
every lead protagonist in every game, trying to play Drake. And it's not Drake, and Drake's always will stand above them.
Yeah.
Um, Conan, what's your thoughts on Nathan Drake?
Yeah, like I don't have a huge connection to the franchise. I played it because
No,
you wouldn't shut up about them.
and you played
So
half of the series. You
yeah, and
watched.
I watched 2 of them on YouTube, and then I played 3 and 4.
Yeah,
And like yeah, I don't know. Like I say, it kind of seems so mundane now almost because, like I say, every character is
every
just is a
character is.
quippy, sarcastic sort of funny guy.
Yeah,
And that's him to a T. And so watching the first couple on YouTube, I'm like, this isn't that interesting, but it's like the Seinfeld effect. I'm like, oh, it's because everyone is this.
yeah. Well,
Um,
back then it was like, oh wow, this
yeah,
protagonist is funny and he's
yeah,
talking like
it
it's.
was super cool, right?
Yeah,
And like I say, like Naughty Dog did a good thing with the fourth. They really did sort of tap into that character and like what do we do with this adventurer who eventually settles down when life happens? And
yeah,
there's this burning desire in him because as we've just seen, he's an adventurer. He's gone on 3 different big adventures. Like, how can he really adjust? And that's really cool. And
yeah.
sort of seeing him, his character really does benefit from that growth, like from the whole.
That
He's still
mature
fun.
take on. Yeah,
Yeah, and watching that change, like what does this sarcastic character look like as time goes on? And he's still funny, he's still sarcastic, but he definitely actually has depth and he's dealing with stuff.
yeah,
And yet, like I say, he just makes those. It's like Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones is fun because he banters with the people he's with. It's not
yeah.
because he walks through a room and he's like, "We have to be quiet and serious." Like, no, you want the jokes, and that's what he does. Nathan Drake is fun, and those are fun games. They're adventures,
Yeah.
and it makes all the difference just having this. But again, he's never one dimensional. You always
No.
feel like there is a lot more to him there.
Yeah.
And which
And
they tease out, which is always good.
and 4 really like, yeah, brings it
Yeah,
home with the
really
whole.
taps into it.
There's scenes in 4 like with him and Elena, which like are amazing scenes that I feel like are very like it's like it's cinema, like it's beautiful. And seeing that like he's got this thing that's really good and he loves and cares for it. He just has this thing gnawing at him that he can't
Yeah,
give up. He's an addict. He can't
yeah.
stop it.
The
And it's
real treasure
bad for
was
him and it's bad for his family. And
because he didn't learn the real treasure was the friendships we made along the way.
exactly. But Grana, you obviously have not played the Uncharted games. or watch the Uncharted movie.
I have zero
do.
interest in either of those things.
He's got great hair. He's got great hair.
He does. He really does, and it gets better through every iteration of the
It's
series.
lusher.
Yeah.
I do have a category in my top characters list for hair, so he probably would rate highly in that. But
He'd be in top 3.
Yeah. Groner, what is your last pick on your list?
Speaking of characters with great hair,
Ooh.
Sam Fisher from the Splinter Cell series. At a time when everybody's video game protagonist was a young, fit man in the prime of his life, they chose to give us like a grizzled veteran, someone who's, at the end of his career, who's seen all the shit and is just a consummate professional. And I don't know, I really enjoy Splinter Cell games. I want Sam Fisher to come back. I want him to be voiced by Michael Ironside before he kicks the bucket.
Has to be.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. There's some really, really good voice acting there. Some really, I don't know, a character fun wrapped up in some fun conspiracies and some fun. They're not wacky adventures, but there's this serious take. But he always has this dry humor about him. I'll never forget the time you're crawling through the sewers and he's talking about how much it smells and stuff like that. I don't know. He's just, I don't know. I like Sam Fisher. He's a very serious character, but he has a bit of a dry humor there. And I don't know. I like Sam Fisher. He's an old dude. He's an old grizzled dude, and you don't get that much in games, at least not back then.
No. It's a travesty what Ubisoft are doing with him.
Or not doing with him.
Or not doing with him. But he's showing up in random expansions for Ghost Recon.
Yeah.
At
least they got the right voice actor for that. I don't know what the future is for him. I think he could definitely make a return. I'm not sure why they haven't even considered it. But I don't know. It's
with the death of Metal Gear Solid, there is a hole for
there is, isn't there?
Stealth tactical espionage action.
Sam Fisher is so cool. It's the same idea. It's like the adventure is fun with the banter and hearing his chats with his handlers and
Lambert,
his team. Yeah, Lambert and who's the girl?
She has a weird name. I'll find it. Hold on.
Yeah, you find it. Either way, but yeah, their sort of chats back and forth, and they're kind of weirdly flirtatious, but not really, because it's they're all aware he's much older. It's just really fun, and it's never silly fun. It's just this is what it would be like, right? It's like working with your workmates. Yeah. You might be off doing a job, but you got to make jokes because we're humans. We're not boring.
Grimm's daughter was her name.
Grimm's daughter, yeah. I still think of that line here where he's where were you during the Gulf War? And she's like, I was in the 10th grade. And he's like, oh, right. Gross.
Yeah.
It's just really funny, and it's really a moment of characterization.
Yeah.
And like I say, it's just really interesting having this stealth master, but he's an old man. It's he's really good at what he does, but he's not the young spring chicken. He's not the best guy. He's a professional. He really is. Now I think about it, he's very similar to Geralt in that, he's a bit older than someone in the prime of their life. He's seen a lot of stuff, so he's dry. He's just I'm just here to do my job, really. And that's always fun, just being with that old person who's it's the cop on the last day of retirement. It's just you want to hang out with them.
It's a shame Ubisoft didn't understand what was good about the character, because as the series went on, he got younger and younger. And it wasn't right. It was weird. I want him to complain about having a bad back because you've been crouching in a corner for the last 15 minutes. That's
make it a gameplay mechanic.
Exactly.
Make it when you leave that pose, he's my back.
Your endurance bar goes down the longer you crouch.
Yeah.
He's I can't stealth much longer. Be great.
Love Sam Fisher.
Yeah.
Good pick.
Great character. Was it Blacklist they recast him?
Yes. Blacklist was the most recent game.
The one he was young. Again,
he was young. It wasn't basically what they should have just done it as a spin-off with another character or something, but yeah. So there was double agent as well, where he was a very different characterization, but it was still the same voice actor. In theory, the same character, but
I like Double Agent. It was dope.
I think you played the good version though. You played the PlayStation version.
Yeah, I just liked it because it was the closest thing I could have to a Prison Break game.
Yeah,
and I was like, I'm Michael Schofield breaking out of prison. Conan, what is your number one
Number one pick, best character without a doubt. I don't even know if it's number one, but it's just on my list. Nico Bellic, GTA 4 protagonist. We talked a bit about this the other week when I did it. We were like, games that exceeded my expectations. And talking about things like Nathan Drake and fashion sense, Nico Bellic really did just he changed the way I wanted to dress. I started wearing track pants a lot more than I should have. Like
just brown and beige
and
drab.
just brown and beige and just the whole, like wearing a good coat over like a hoodie or a bad jacket.
Yep.
Like just his fashion style, I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do. Just I don't know. He, in that grand pantheon of characters with arcs, and it's not even arcs, he doesn't change necessarily, but it's just with incredibly interesting stories and that novelistic approach to spending time with this guy and slowly unpacking his backstory, slowly learning about the tragedy, why he's here, what he's hoping to achieve, and just it is a tragedy because it's just watching him unable to escape his past and unable to actually achieve the American dream is so harrowing. And he doesn't change because you can't change, and that's kind of the point. That when he looks like he's on the verge of changing, it gets snatched away because that's life as a criminal. And he's a really fascinating character. He's very dense. Not in not in a dumb way. He's very layered, and kind of watching him interact with different characters and sort of slowly watching his layers peeled back is just really intriguing. And you're like, this guy is. It's kind of what you'd imagine from a war scarred survivor. Like he would have a facade, and he would really kind of work hard to keep that up. And slowly but surely, it would eventually come down. And that only means you'll get hurt. I know he's fascinating, and like with all sorts of GTA games, his comments during firefights and stuff are really funny. His little jokes about bowling like an angel but being bad at life is really good. Like just when he's drunk and when he's like stumbling around trying to pick fights, it's just all. It's really it's really good. It really
Drunk
sort of
Nico Bellic is in like a league of his own, I think.
yeah, it's something else. I just he is this like he's amazing as a character. He's up there with Joel Miller, with Arthur Morgan, all those sort of like characters that just get completely like slice apart and examine every facet of life. He is up there in the big ones.
Yeah. Grana, have you played GTA 4?
I have, yeah. I didn't finish. I feel like I played a lot of GTA 4 and didn't get very far in it. But I mean, that's the nature of GTA, I suppose.
Definitely.
But yeah, he seems like a cool character. I mean, obviously, there's the ongoing meme of him playing bowling with his brother. I mean, that's not so much about him, but he seems like a cool character. I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about him.
You like tracksuits? Because he wears tracksuits.
I like tracksuits in the comfort of my own home. Yes.
He wears it everywhere.
I'm not as brave as him.
He goes to strip clubs in them. He goes shooting drug dealers with them.
What a baller, man.
And he goes on all of his dates in tracksuits.
I mean, you can wear jeans if you want to, but
it doesn't suit him though.
I didn't wear jeans for about 2 years because I had tracksuits.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, you've kind of ruined my first pick because my first pick is actually Roman Bellic, his cousin.
The bowling aficionado.
He's a great bowler. He loves going bowling on Friday nights.
He bowls a lot.
He does. So my first pick, Joel Miller, Last of Us, was never not going to be Joel, the best dad in gaming history. I mean, depends to which daughter, but like here's the thing. There's this whole interesting conversation around Joel in the end of The Last of Us 1, where a lot of people were like, oh, wow, like, he's the bad guy. Like, you're playing as the bad guy the whole time because he brutally murders so many people, including good people, like all that you thought were good, like the Fireflies, and Marlene, this woman who was taking care of Ellie since she was a little girl. He shoots her point blank, cold hearted, right in the face. You're like, no, you'll just come after her. And obviously, after all of that, the most brutal thing is then he lies. He swears and lies point blank to Ellie's face about what happened at the hospital. And it's heartbreaking because like you've played as Joel this whole time. You've forged this bond and this relationship that you feel as well. And he kind of betrays it in that moment by lying, but obviously it's a selfish thing that he does. But he's not the villain. He's not the bad guy. He's a father. And as a father now, I would do 100% what he did. Like the
I
way
have
I've
killed people.
like that's his daughter. And what The Last of Us really proves throughout the game, I feel like, is humanity beyond anything is beyond saving at this point. The humans you encounter in that world are worse than the clickers. Like the most disgusting person you come across is David, and he's like the most traumatic character you encounter, and he's a human. And I think what the whole game of The Last of Us 1 shows is how I don't think a vaccine would save this world. It's obviously not going to help the people who are already infected, because their brains have grown out of their head and like they're fungus monsters. And all it would mean is that one faction has this very powerful tool, the Fireflies, and I don't think the Fireflies can fully be trusted. So they put her in this position where she doesn't have a choice of whether or not to sacrifice her life. She says obviously later on that she would have, and if you know Ellie, you know she would have as well. She wanted that to mean something, everything she's lost. But they're going to just operate on her and kill her without her knowledge. And Joel's 100% justified in what he did to save his daughter and to have a selfish. It's a very selfish decision because he's like, I'm going to go live on a farm with my daughter and play guitar and drink coffee, and I'm going to enjoy life in the apocalypse. And God bless him, because man, in the
I would
same
do it.
shoes, I would do the same damn thing. So I love Joel, great character, and just like he's not in number 2 much, obviously, for reasons I won't get into,
It's a
but
travesty.
what he is in there is almost the best scenes in the game as well. Like, the
Yeah.
performance from Troy Baker is outstanding. This game put Troy Baker on the map, I feel like. And, like, the porch scene in Last of Us 2 is one of my favorite scenes in video game history, and it's so subtle, the performance, and so beautiful and heartbreaking as well with that relationship and what they go through in number 2. But just
Yep.
yeah, I love this character so much. I can't gush about it as a character enough.
Yeah. One of those points that I had about great characters, like fully realized, right? How realized are they? And he is a fully realized character. Because,
Yep.
like you say, what they do so well in this is there is no such thing as good or bad. It's like characters have ideologies. And like he is, according to his own perspective, he is completely the hero. And by those rules and beliefs, he's 100% justified. But then by equal beliefs, he's also the villain, right? And that's what we see in number 2 is we really explore that aspect of he's a hero by his own perspective. And that's the nature of humanity and of good and evil and heroism, really.
Yep.
And yeah, he just is such an incredibly well fleshed out, nuanced character of that. So this guy is a father, and that's sort of where that's his arrested development, and that's everything he defines himself by. And so,
Yep.
of course, he would do these things, and that's why he is the way he is. And you can't help but, even if you don't agree with it, it's impossible to not empathize with him or sympathize rather.
Yeah.
And that's a remarkable feat for a character.
Yeah. And he's flawed. It's a flawed, selfish decision that he makes at the end of the game, and it's like completely understandable. I think. Grana, anything you want to add on? Joel?
No, I think you guys have covered it pretty well. They did undo his character a little bit in number 2, but
they didn't.
I'm joking. I mean, they killed him. That's the problem.
Literally.
No, he's a great character. Like you say, he's some of the best parts of number 2 are him. So
yeah,
100% agree.
I mean, the birthday scene number 2. It's just that whole chapter is amazing.
Greatest thing.
Conan and me are kind of Joel fanboys, and we are personal friends of T-Bakes.
He also has hair and beard that I want, so I really shape myself off video game characters a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's what we've grown up on. So
yeah, those were my role models.
Yeah,
anyone who stands in your way.
100%. So yeah, so that's our top 5. I think Joel's the only person who's doubled on a list. But kind of interesting, out of 15, we have basically 14 different characters, which is just shows that we have different opinions on stuff.
We're diverse.
I'm very shocked that Arthur Morgan wasn't on your list, Conan.
I intentionally didn't put him on to avoid this because I don't want to just have 3 of the same as someone else.
Yeah, I almost didn't put him on because I thought it was certain to be on yours.
And see, Joel Miller was kind of like my proxy for all white grizzled men.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a whole brand of them.
We were
and he's the best one.
And it was the coffee that got him over the line, wasn't it?
It gets me every time.
Yeah, I know.
When he's drinking the coffee on the board, he's just like, he's just sipping coffee. I'm like, my man.
Yeah. Honorable mentions. Griner, do you have anybody you want to shout out?
Yeah, I got a couple. I wanted to do General Radahn from Elden Ring, but it would involve spoiling his character, and it's one of the best parts of Elden Ring, so I'll leave it, but he is very, very cool.
Time capsule to come back to.
His story is it's fascinating. It's very, very interesting. Not what you expect. The straight piece from Tetris. Always happy when I see that guy. Always happy when I see that guy. Some of the best gaming moments, actually, when you see that guy. And I was nearly going to do Solid Snake. Obviously, he's a great character. I think Kojima's crafted a masterpiece in that whole series, and just the things that Snake goes through. And he's very, very good too.
Conan.
Yeah, I have a bunch.
I have a bunch too. I'll go through them quickly.
I'll run them really quick. Vass is good. Marcus Phoenix from Gears of War, I think is great. Hitman Agent 47, Commander Shepard and his BFF Garrus. Link, obviously, is a big one. Master Chief Cortana, the other thing. Scorpion was the other one I was thinking about putting on here from Mortal Kombat. He is he's pretty dope. Like he's very iconic and influential and has existed forever.
Yeah.
And he's a lot of fun. So those would be mine.
So my honorable mentions. Abby from The Last of Us Part 2. Solid Snake. Metal Gear Solid. I grew up on that series. I love it to death and gone through such a thing from childhood. Metal Gear Solid being one of the first games I ever played to Metal Gear Solid 4 and his story ending. Obviously, there's a lot of weird Kojima stuff to go back to with Solid Snake. He's a bit of a perv, and I think he would get killed in 2022 with some scenes in them games. But love that character to death, and he almost made the top 5. From Mass Effect, I've got 3 characters. I've got Legion, who's just one of the coolest characters ever. I just love going to him just to press spam on and listen to him talk for ages. Another one that I like to do that with in Mass Effect is Thane.
Yeah, he's great.
Voices, man. Those guys they can just talk my ear off, and I'll just keep repeating the same conversations because their voices are super smooth. Commander Shepard as well. Obviously, he's a bit of a blank slate. I don't even know if he's performed that great in most of the games, but he's responsible for so many of my favorite memories as a character. Alex Chen from Life is Strange: True Colors, who almost pipped Arthur Morgan for number 5. Kratos from God of War 2018, not the previous God of War games. Don't know if he's make my list before then, but
I considered him also.
Yeah, Aloy from Horizon, Ratchet and Clank, Cole McGrath from Infamous, Ezio from Assassin's Creed. He's great. And last but not least, definitely almost made it to my top 5, Deacon St. John from Days Gone.
I was expecting him to come in, and I was going to sort of check all of your characters.
I was just going to be like fully commit and have him as my number 1 and just defend it to the grave as well. They're like, no, he is the best character ever created.
By the same token, I nearly made my whole list Nintendo characters just to annoy you.
I was waiting for it, but
you should have.
Well, that's all for this week. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. If you liked listening to us talk about video games, you'll also love watching us talk about movies. So our other podcast, The Good, the Bad, and the Worst, we discuss movie trilogies. Our last one was the Frontier trilogy by Taylor Sheridan. And our next one is the highly demanded Twilight Saga. possibly the most epic movies of our time. Who knows? You'll have to tune in and hear our thoughts on it. Follow us on social media at BonusXP podcast or at Good Bad Worst Pod. This episode was brought to you by the best New York Times bestseller, The Taste of Iron by C.V. Clarke. You can find it on Amazon, purchase paperback copy or on Kindle. And as always, see you next time. Peace.
Bye.
Laters.